But when Nicole Bonfig is born, it's clear that she's sick, even if doctors don't know why.
When she came out, she was purpley looking. She looked kind of swollen a little bit, and not pink like, you think they're gonna come out.
And shortly thereafter, they took her out of the room and didn't really explain a whole lot. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I did sense that something was different with this birth than the first one.
The next morning, the doctors tell the Bonfigs that there's something wrong with the baby's heart.
So they were gonna bring her to another hospital that had a pediatric intensive care unit where she could be watched, and they whisked her away.
At the new hospital, a cardiac team examines the baby and orders a battery of tests. Finally, on the echocardiogram, they see the problem. Nicole has a congenital heart defect. Her aortic valve is misshapen and could block adequate blood flow to the rest of her body. The doctors decide to monitor her heart to see if the valve does indeed start to malfunction.
They did echoes every day, and then Thursday they did another echo. And her valve had functioned pretty good.
It was painted as a fairly mild situation, that it wasn't something that we would have to worry too much about in the short run.
And so they said, you do need to do a checkup in 2 weeks and see how her valve is doing then. And they sent us home the next day.
At Nicole's follow-up appointment, everything checks out just fine. But in the weeks after that, things take a turn for the worse.
Each day it seemed like, things just weren't right. I weighed her every day at home, and she was gaining, a little bit, but only a couple ounces. And she nursed much more frequently than Emily did. Every hour and a half.
And she literally she couldn't feed more than 5 minutes at a time. Feeding was wearing her out.
More and more, when she'd nurse, her face would get really dark, and that meant she was working really hard while she was nursing. And I remember a Friday calling this doctor and wanting to talk to him, and I was worried about her. And I said, she's not gaining weight, she's dusky when I feed her, she's feeding all the time. I said, and these are all signs that you told me of signs of heart failure.
The cardiologist tells Natalie that it can wait until their next appointment. But Natalie can't wait and immediately makes an appointment with a new cardiologist.
He tells me he's going to do 3 tests. He's going to do an echocardiogram, he's going to do an x-ray, which will show whether the heart is enlarged or not, and he's going to do an EKG, which will measure the heart rhythm.
When the tests come back, it's bad news. The results show that Nicole's aortic valve has gotten so narrow that she could go into heart failure any day.
And he says she needs to have open heart surgery, and she needs to have it this week.
Six-week-old Nicole Bonfig is in the hospital fighting for her life. She has a heart defect that, if left untreated, could kill her within days. Surgery is her only option.
What they were going to do was perform what's called an aortic valvotomy. They take a scalpel and they go to the little opening in this valve and they make that opening bigger. This scared the daylights out of me.
And you're just thinking, why is this happening to us? Well, is she going to live? Am I going to see her in a couple hours?
The possibility that Nicole would die was very, very real.
They come and wheel her away, and you think maybe you never see her again. I just don't know.
It's the most frightening weight of their lives. Finally, the operation is over, and the surgeon has good news.
He said, I believe it was very successful, but we still have to monitor her and see how well she does.
Nicole's aortic valve is now the size it should be. The doctors tell the Bonfigs she may need surgery again when she's older, but for now, Nicole has a functioning heart.
So we knew that we'd watch her heart, and I thought, well, this is it. This is going to be our heart baby, our heart child.
I think that they, went home thinking that it's going to be good for now, and we're just going to kind of see how it goes and, hope for the best with the valve, not thinking that maybe there was anything else wrong.
Hoping the worst is behind them, the Bonfigs bring the 6-week-old infant home.
After she recovered, she started moving around, kicking her legs, kicking her arms. And I'm just like, oh, look at her. Look at her. She's just moving around like a normal baby. She just looked wonderful.
Things are looking up, and for a while, Nicole flourishes. Then, at 5 months, it all begins to change.
Nicole seemed to get sick fairly often, mostly ear infections.
All kids have ear infections, so I really didn't think anything of it. And, after what we'd been through, an ear infection,
But every couple of weeks, Natalie was taken to the doctor, and she'd be on one antibiotic or another.
So in May of that year, she had tubes put in. You do kind of ask those questions. She's got heart problems, she's got ear problems, but no, they're completely separate.
But as the weeks go by, Natalie starts to notice something even more disturbing.
Nicole did not progress, I would say, at a normal rate that first year, weight-wise or developmentally.
She literally wasn't growing. She wasn't putting on weight. She wasn't very tall.
I mean, at the age of 6 to even 8 months, she still looked like a newborn baby.
Nicole couldn't even really sit herself up till about 10 or 11 months.
And she would go to the doctor, and they kept saying, well, it was because of the open heart surgery. That just set her back that much more, so that's the reason why she's not growing.
That's a believable scenario. We saw what Nicole went through, and that makes some sense. She's going to catch up.
But Nicole does not catch up, and as the months wear on, she falls further behind.
Nicole did not grow 1 pound from the time she was 2 until she was 3. She did not gain 1 pound. We had an outfit I bought her. She wore it for 2 years. She wore this outfit out. The doctors just kept saying, she's doing fine, her growth's fine, her weight's fine, she's on her own little curve. And everything inside of me was telling me there's something else wrong. I knew it wasn't her heart. It really wasn't her ears. I mean, I was getting really worried, and I was frustrated because I felt like nobody was listening to me. Nobody would say, you're right, there is something else wrong.
Three-year-old Nicole Bonfig had open heart surgery when she was a baby, and it saved her life. But now she has stopped growing, and her doctor has no idea why.
And I remember very vividly him standing there going, she hasn't grown at all this past year. And I was like, yes, I know she hasn't. And what do you think's wrong with her? I mean, it was like I pounced on it when he said that. I was like, yeah, okay, well, what? And the cardiologist said, I want to send you to an endocrinologist.
That endocrinologist is Dr. Joseph Sokolowski, a specialist in hormone and growth problems.
I got a call from Nicole's heart specialist, and he became concerned that she was smaller than he would have expected. Nicole's height was more typical of a 2-year-old, and she was almost 3. And her weight was more typical of about an 18-month-old.
Dr. Sokolowski must determine whether Nicole is just a late bloomer or if she has a growth disorder.
I then did a complete exam from head to toe, looking for anything that might suggest an underlying medical condition that could cause a child to not grow.
He looked her back, her legs, her arms, her chest, her face, under the back of her neck, everything.
Her exam was essentially normal with 2 minor exceptions. She did have a high arch to her roof of her mouth, and she had a greater distance between the nipples on her chest.
These irregularities could be a sign of a serious disorder, but Dr. Sokolowski must run a series of tests to find out what it is.
We did some blood tests to look at her kidney function, to look at her thyroid function. In addition, I ordered a chromosome analysis or a karyotype.
He said the test results will be back in a month and we'll contact you. And then he sent us home.
Chromosomes are the thin, rod-like structures found in every cell that contain our genetic information. A chromosome defect can be devastating to a child's development. The next 2 months are the longest wait of Steve and Natalie's lives. Then, finally, the results of the karyotype come back.
I made a call to Nicole's home, initially spoke with her father, and told him that I thought we had an answer to why Nicole was smaller than every other girl of her age. And I said that she had a chromosome problem called Turner syndrome.
Turner syndrome affects 1 of every 2,500 girls. Normally, girls are born with 2 X chromosomes in each cell. Turner girls are born with only 1 full X chromosome. This means there is a large portion of genetic information that they just don't have. These missing genes caused all of Nicole's health problems: her heart defect, ear infections, and stunted growth.
Short stature is probably the single most common problem that these girls face. They're also at greater risk for a digestive system problem called celiac disease. They may have some progressive hearing loss. They can have enlargement of the main artery that leads out of the heart. And if that were to progress, it can rupture and lead to a very rapid death.
I didn't know what to think outside of, here we go again. On top of all we've been through already, it was just like, it's one more thing. And one more big thing.
There is no cure for Turner, but the problems it causes can be managed.
You're trying to deal with a dynamic situation that's always changing. There's always new things to look for. At every stage of her life, there's going to be something to look for.
Turner girls can be diagnosed at birth if they demonstrate some telltale symptoms, which Nicole did not.
At birth, she did not have any unusual puffiness of her hands or feet. She did not have the extra skin fold in her neck. And while she did have a congenital heart problem, it was the kind of problem that occurs in a lot of otherwise normal children.
Dr. Sokolowski immediately puts Nicole on a daily regimen of growth hormone.
When Nicole went on growth hormones, it was amazing. She started growing.
First year, she grew 5 inches, and we were thrilled.
Because Nicole was started on growth hormone so early, her doctors expect her to reach a normal adult height. As a teenager, Nicole will begin estrogen treatments to kickstart puberty. Although she will develop the features of an adult woman, Turner girls are generally infertile.
Probably the hardest part of all this has been having to tell her that she has to adopt children, because it's hard to tell a little girl that. When I told her, she had a couple questions and she was kind of like, okay. She accepts everything very, very well.
Today, Nicole is a happy, well-adjusted 9-year-old.
Something that makes me different is I'm a little bit shorter than some people, but it doesn't make you too different from everybody else.
She is doing great in school. She's smart, she's bright, and she's athletic. She's done very well. We've been incredibly fortunate.
Nicole will and should be able to do pretty much anything she wants.